This video was produced by The Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net, your home for Pokemon TCG tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is Pooka bringing you a game I played on the Pokemon trading card game online. Recently I haven't been playing too much of this. The program's gotten a little stale. There's been a lot of glitches and bugs that have been fixed, but it's still fun to play, and it's a cool way to also stream the game, bring in newer players, and it's the best visual way to play the game online because you have all these pretty pictures, all the stuff's easy to see, and it's just the best way to go. So, this time around I will be using my Legendboar deck, one of my old favorites. It's not too competitive anymore thanks to cards like N, and really the format is too fast for this deck to keep up. But it's still really fun to play. Sometimes it can put up a fight. So we're going to see how we do this time. And I am going up against a player named Dr. F_MT. I'm just going to assume that's how you say that. Who actually has quite a few wins, and he was actually favored to beat me. So, apparently he's got some good stuff, and I have played him before. As you can see, he's using Celebi. He plays a Celebi Mewtwo Tornadus deck. So we will see how Legendboar stacks up against his deck. So, Legendboar basically is just Emboar with Ninetales and a 2/2 Rayquaza Deoxys Legend. Basically, you try to use Ozone Buster for a lot of prizes. I also play Reshiram, 2 of them, but I don't think I have any in my deck currently. So that is going to be quite a challenge. And I will Collector, and yes, lo and behold, I have 0 Reshirams in my deck. Both are prized. So now I have to find a way to win without an attacker that is not named Rayquaza Deoxys Legend, which can end up being bad because he gives up 2 prizes when he's knocked out. So, what I'm going to have to do this game is rely on the other Emboar. So we have the one with the ability that lets me attach as many fire energy as I want every turn. And then we have the other Emboar, which does 150 damage. Then you have to discard all fire energy. So, starting off, I'm going to have to hope that I can get both of these Emboars into play and attack with those, because I really have no other option. So, he goes for a Smeargle of his own. Kind of neat how Smeargle has made his way back into the format thanks to Sky Arrow Bridge. A card like Cleffa nowadays is a little too flimsy. 30 hit points is just not going to cut it when there's so many things that can just do 30 or 40 damage on the first turn, like Tyrogue and Mewtwo EX. Just too easy to knock out a Smeargle on the first turn. Or to knock out a Cleffa on the first turn, which is why you would use Smeargle. So both of us have it in our decks. I play it just because it's sturdier than Cleffa. He plays it because it works with his Sky Arrow Bridge. So Smeargle is quite a versatile card. Both players using it here, but as you can see in my hand, he has nothing to portrait besides the Twins, which he cannot use because we're tied on prizes. So really, I had a pretty fortunate first turn there. He was not able to attack me. He could not get a double colorless off of his Professor Juniper, and I survived the onslaught of the first turn. So right now, I am going to Communication for Pignite, knowing that I need to get Emboars out as a priority, and I just wanted to play out as many cards as I could first, because if I use Portrait and my opponent has a Professor Juniper, like in this case, I will have to discard my entire hand. So that ends up working out for me, and now I can Roast Reveal, draw 3 cards. I didn't get the greatest hand in the world, but I do have an Emboar now. Might as well just bench that Tepig. Seeing as there are no Emboar or no Reshirams in my deck, they're all in my prizes, and Now, I could play my N, but I saw my opponent's hand. It was actually pretty bad. And I'm actually going to make a weird decision. I'm going to Catcher up Tornadus. Now, why would I do this? Alright, so I portraited. I saw my opponent had a very bad hand. It was a Juniper, 2 catchers, and just stuff that they really wouldn't want to get rid of. And I don't want to give my opponent an opportunity to portrait my hand and use the N and get a new hand. I want to make my opponent waste the resources by playing Juniper, or he'll have to retreat and portrait, which would then force him to draw a switch to attack this turn. So, I'm basically just using the knowledge of my opponent's hand to try to mess with him a little bit and make him waste resources that he wouldn't have to if he used portrait and copied my hand. So there we go. Complete success. My opponent Junipers, discards a catcher, and played a catcher too. So that 2 catchers gone in 1 turn, which are really the enemy of Legendboar. So we have 1 junk arm and 2 catchers gone already. And my opponent has not taken a prize yet. So this is perfect. The problem with the Legendboar deck is that it's so slow, they can catch your stuff up, and you end up just getting knocked out before you set up. But if they run out of catchers, then maybe eventually you can promote your giant Pokemon, your Legendboars, your Reshurams, and they won't be able to knock them out in 1 hit. And if that's the case, that's perfect. You'll be able to make a comeback, because really not much does 150 damage to knock out an Legendboar. But plenty of stuff can catch her out of Ninetales and knock it out. So, that is kind of my idea here. I just wanted to try to make him waste resources, and I was able to do that. And here we have a switch after he retreated to Celebi and used Forest Breath. So, looks like that N will get used after all. But I don't mind at this point, because, hey, my opponent already discarded the resources. So I am just fine and dandy. Now, in order to attack me this turn, my opponent would need, let's see, another switch and an energy. And it looks like I drew a nearly perfect hand off that N in terms of getting my Legendboars out. And my opponent does get a double colorless energy, so... Oh, no switch though, so I will survive the turn. Okay, things are looking up. And I roast reveal, but I don't really think there's a whole lot I want to do this turn. I do get Legendboar into play. Let's take a look. There's only 1 fire in my discard pile, so Fisherman not going to help out too much. I could Junk Arm and get a communication for a second Ninetales. That is one option here. Could also retreat to Smeargle and use Portrait. But if my opponent had a Juniper, that would not be good. I would have to discard a lot of stuff, which I would not want to do. So I guess I'm just gonna take the risk with Portrait. I Collector and see, oh yeah, there's no basics left in my deck. But if I Portrait and there's a Juniper there, that's a big deal. But if there's an Oak's New Theory or an N, I actually don't mind that too much. And here we go, Portrait, and thankfully it's an Oak's New Theory. So I get a little lucky there that there was no Juniper, but a couple had been played already. So it wasn't too likely that my opponent just had a Professor Juniper in hand, and I escaped that situation unscathed for the most part. Now at this point I'm feeling very good, because, I mean, take a look at what I got. I have 2 Legendboars, 2 Ninetales. My opponent hasn't even taken a prize yet. And on top of all that, my opponent has benched that Mewtwo EX. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Rayquaza Deoxys Legend. I play 2/2 of it, and it happens to do 300 damage to Mewtwo EX. Which, yes, it does do enough damage to knock out a Mewtwo. But the important thing is, Mewtwo normally when it's knocked out gives up 2 prizes. But with Rayquaza Deoxys Legend, It has this Space Virus Pokebody, which allows you to take an extra prize card if you knock out something with it. So, if you knock out Mewtwo with RDL, you take 3 prizes. So, basically, all I have to do is take 3 prizes regularly, and then knock out the Mewtwo, and I'll win the game. And that is really going to be the plan for this game. I don't think that's a bad plan. It should work out, and there is 1/2 of the RDL. So I'm going to roast reveal, keep drawing cards here. I'm going to hope to draw Lightning Energy, but unfortunately it does not look like I draw any Lightning Energy. The reason I wanted a Lightning Energy is because Emboar's Flare Blitz does 150 damage, but you have to discard all the Fire Energy. Costs 2 Fire, 2 Colorless, so if I could get a Lightning on there, I wouldn't have to discard that, and I would conserve an energy. But it looks like all I have is Fire, and I'm going to have to just go ahead and use Flare Blitz. Discarding all 4 Fire. Fortunately, I do play a lot of energy retrievals and Fisherman, so I'll be able to get energy back from the discard pile, but it is annoying when I have to discard all 4. I do draw a Collector for my prize, so still no Reshiram. I'm probably going to need to draw a Reshiram in order to win this game. I don't think I'll be able to attack with just Emboar and win this. So now it's my opponent's turn. He does have a Tornadus powered up, and a Mewtwo. Now, Tornadus is not that great against this deck, and Mewtwo really isn't either when you look at my Emboar, which has 0 energy on it. X-Ball won't do very much damage. Tornadus only does 80, and then he gets knocked out by a Flare Blitz. So, Emboar is a very strong Pokemon. It just takes forever to set up. And now my opponent will catch her up. Tepig realizes, okay, I need to get prizes. And yeah, brings up Tornadus. We will see a Hurricane this turn, I'm sure. And there it is. Hurricane will knock out poor little Tepig, and my opponent will take the second prize. However, I do still have that Flare Blitz Emboar ready to go. So send him up, and I draw Twins. So that is a pretty nice card to be drawing here. How do I want to go about this, though? There is still... it's still lame that there's 2 catchers in my discard, or 2 Reshirams in my prizes. That catcher I only play 1 of is in my discard pile. And I still have to take 2 more prizes before I can drop the big RDL bomb and win the game. Now I do have a couple Fishermen left. I will not be running out of energy this game. I also have Junk Arms in my hand, so won't be a big deal getting all my energy. The big deal is going to be having attackers to take prizes, and I don't know if I'll be able to, but Emboar, I don't think it'll be knocked out this turn, considering it's got 150 hit points. However, that Mewtwo is getting really scary. It's got, what, 4 energy on it already? Yikes. So X-Ball's already doing 80. So he could be going for some major play where he just loads up a Mewtwo and tries to knock everything on 1 hit. And if that's the case, that could kind of run through me, but as long as my opponent doesn't play an N, or as long as I can get that Rayquaza Deoxys into play, I should be just fine. Now this is kind of a big turn. Does my opponent have the means to take a prize? There's 4 energy on the Mewtwo already. It means X-Ball is doing 80, plus the 20 on my active Emboar. So if my opponent had another Grass Energy and a double Colorless Energy, that would make X-Ball actually knock me out, which is absurd to knock out an Emboar in 1 hit. So there's a Grass. And what else we got? Looks like 1 more energy, so now my opponent can't knock me out this turn, but if he has a plus power, he still could do that magical 150 damage. Plays a Collector, so really I think this game is going to come down to whether or not my opponent has N. If my opponent has N and can disrupt me, I might not be able to get that Rayquaza Deoxys Legend into play quickly enough to knock out the Mewtwo for my last 3 prizes. And then we see another Mewtwo and a Terrakion and a Shaman. So, this is going to make me really weary of benching Rayquaza Deoxys Legend too early. Because if I play it too early, then I'm going to end up giving my opponent 2 prizes. And then I'm very vulnerable to end because I'll go down to 1 prize, which means I'll only get 1 card. So now my opponent decides to Catcher out Ninetales. He's doing 100 damage right now. Let's see. So actually he was shorter than I thought for knocking out the active Emboar. So my opponent goes down to 3 prizes. I am now at 4. And what do I want to do here? I think I'm going to have to Catcher this turn. I'm going to use that Junk Arm in my hand for a Catcher for sure. And I need to take a prize this turn. So I should probably send up Emboar. My 2 options are, 1, send up Emboar and use Flare Blitz, Catcher out something. Number 2 would be set up Ninetales, retreat to Reshiram, and then use Flare Blitz. Or use Blue Flare. Sorry, too many flares here. So those are my 2 options. I think the better one was to promote Emboar this turn and go for that. Now I do need to play a Fisherman this turn, so I'll get 4 fire back from the discard pile. And I am going to need to use Catcher this turn, I think. Either that, or I can actually just Flare Blitz the active for 150, and the next turn follow up with Reshiram using Outrage for 20 and getting a knockout there. So that looks like the route I'm going to go. The other route is a little riskier because I don't have the resources to get the energy back for Ozone Buster quite yet. And it's also risky because I don't have the means to get another Emboar into play. So if my opponent were able to get enough energy on his Mewtwo to Catcher out my Emboar and X-Ball it for a knockout, I would have no energy acceleration and I would be pretty much screwed because I couldn't power up RDL, I couldn't power up anything, and I would just lose. So what this does is, if my opponent catches out the benched Emboar and knocks it out, I'll have a turn to Rare Candy into my other Emboar and start dropping energy down, and maybe I can win. Anyway, so I need to keep in mind that my opponent can knock out my benched Emboar. Could be a bit of a problem, but here we have a Shaman. He's going to move his energy to the new Mewtwo. So this could be quite a bit of trouble for me. Next turn I'm going to need to Junk Arm for Pokemon Catcher, bring out that bench Mewtwo EX, and Outrage him for a knockout. Get down to 2 prizes, and then I'll be able to finish the game with an Ozone Buster. So this game didn't exactly go as planned. It got a little rocky here and there. Mewtwo is really tough to deal with, and especially with Rayquaza Deoxys Legend being weak to Psychic. Even though I take 3 prizes on a Mewtwo, I have to be so worried about N, because I don't run any Magnazones. This is not a Magnazone Emboar deck. So if my opponent were to use N on me, I don't get to refill my hand. I need to draw like a Fire Energy so I could use Roast Reveal, refill my hand, and that's just too tough. So I need to play around N as much as possible, and I'm going to do all I can to do that. But it's really going to come down to him having an N next turn, and me drawing another Fisherman or something like that. So this is the point we're at. I actually promote Tepig because it has a free retreat cost, thanks to Sky Arrow Bridge. So this is a big turn. I need to Junk Arm this turn, so I'm actually going to Roast Reveal and draw some more cards here. And okay, I got a Fisherman. That's a good card to draw. So I really need to just prepare as much as possible this turn. I'm going to retreat Tepig, Rare Candy into my other Emboar. This takes away his option to Catcher and knock out a benched Emboar, which is fantastic. So now I need to junk arm. I want to discard my N for sure, and I decided to go for the fire energy as well, because I do have a fisherman in my hand, so I will be able to fisherman to get back 4 energy, get back 3 fire and a lightning, preparing for next turn as well. So really I'm just kind of banking on the fact that he won't have an N, but if he does, I did put more fire energy back in my hand. And alright, so I'm just going to prepare for next turn as much as I can. Attach a fire to Ninetales because I will need an energy to retreat after he knocks out my active. If he doesn't knock out my active, then I can just retreat the Reshiram and send up RDL. So here we go. I get two prizes, so that'll refill my hand so I can use Junk Arm for an energy retrieval next turn. So it comes down to this. Does my opponent have an N to mess with my hand? We will find out here very shortly. That Mewtwo has a ton of energy. It is going to knock out anything in one hit. Can I survive this onslaught? And oh, Collector. That is not an N. Collector does not disrupt my hand. It looks like my opponent plays quite a few different types of Pokemon in his deck. That's the second Terrakion I've seen. That's a Shaman EX as well. So now, what does Dr. F do from here? He has that Mewtwo. He's down to 2 prizes. But the Mewtwo also is a liability. But really anything on his field is a liability. Because the beauty of being at 2 prizes is now, if he were to attack with, say, a Tornadus this turn, and knock out my Ninetales, you know, get a catcher and a plus power, I could just drop the Rayquaza Deoxys Legend, Ozone Buster, and take 2 prizes and win the game. If he drops a Terrakion, same thing. Pretty much any attacker in his deck is going to be knocked out by Ozone Buster, and there's no way he can really avoid me taking these last 2 prizes, unless he played an N, which he didn't. So he's pretty much just putting everything on this Mewtwo. That is a ton of energy. I don't even think I can count that high. Yeah, that is so much energy that it's spilling over to my side of the field. Kind of rude. Let's see, he's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that surely will knock out my Reshiram. And now I just turn on the combat animations because we all know where this is going. Gonna go ahead and Junk Arm. Discard the Reshiram and the N to get my energy retrieval back. There we go. And this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Energy retrieval, get some fires back. Put down the Rayquaza Deoxys Legend. Let's charge him up. Inferno Fandango. And this is it, folks. This is how you can knock out a Mewtwo without having a Psychic Pokemon. Well, I guess he is Psychic, so never mind that. But you can beat Mewtwo with other stuff. Here we go. Ozone Buster. We are going to send Mewtwo all the way back to the Stone Age. Ozone Buster. And it hits for weakness. 300 damage. That'll be a knockout. And that will be the game. All of those energy on the Mewtwo will go with him to the discard pile. So, at the end of the day, Legendboar will take this one down. Somehow manages to beat one of the top decks in the format. So if you allow Emboar to set up, it actually can win these games. It's still a very strong deck. It's just kind of vulnerable to N, and it's very slow. But if you can get past those 2 things, Emboar is still extremely strong, and it can compete with any deck just based on its sheer strength and damage output. So, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you enjoyed Rayquaza and Deoxys Legend teaming up to take down the big bad Mewtwo. And that'll be it for this one. So, we'll have some more videos up soon. Thank you for watching. This has been Pooka here from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.